So since we got something special like a tomahawk ribeye, we're outside to do a reverse sear on the big green egg. So I've got this beautiful tomahawk ribeye here, and I want to do something really special. So I'm going to do a reverse sear on the big green egg. The great thing about the reverse sear is you're slow cooking to bring it up to that medium rare, and throughout this process you're introducing a little bit of smoke to give it some extra flavor. This will help you accomplish a perfect doneness, and then at the end I'll crank up the heat and give it a nice char to get that crust that is just so delicious. So I'll get into the steak here in a minute, but first I'm going to start off with everything you need to get this going. So here we have some starters. This will help get your coals going without having to use lighter fluid or a chimney, because you especially don't want to use lighter fluid in a big green egg. Next I've got a little bit of hardwood, a little apple hickory mix. You can use whatever you personally like. Then I have the diffuser. I wrapped it in a little bit of aluminum foil. This just really helps to keep cleanup nice and easy. So most importantly, I've got the big green egg that I've filled partially with some nice lump charcoal. So I've got these charcoal starters that I'm just going to put right into the coals and bury them underneath a little bit to get these coals started. While this gets warmed up, let's talk about this beautiful tomahawk. So what makes a tomahawk ribeye? A tomahawk is a bone-in ribeye with the long bone attached. Most bone-in ribeyes end about here. This has the full rib that goes down to here. It really just adds a wow factor to this steak. It's still your ribeye, but it looks more impressive when you serve it to your guests. If you want to find a steak like this, go to your local butcher shop and ask your butcher where to find one. To get the full flavor out of this steak, I'm going to season it with nothing but a little salt and pepper. I'm going to go on liberally with this because this is a large steak. It's almost more like seasoning a roast because it's so thick. Now that I've got it well seasoned, let's get the grill assembled. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is get these wood chunks into the grill. They'll just help to add some extra flavor. Next, I'm going to go on with the diffuser. So the point of the diffuser is to keep the direct heat off this ribeye. That way you kind of cook it through before you get that sear on it. Top of that, I'll get the grate. Now, most importantly, we'll get the steak on. Now that we've closed the lid, I'm going to adjust the airflow on the bottom. Let's close this to about an inch. So I'll adjust the regulator on top to about a quarter turn open. I'm really targeting about 300 degrees. I want a nice gentle heat to bring this up to temperature before I hit it with that hard sear. That'll ensure a nice even doneness throughout the steak. If you try to put this steak just over direct heat, like you would a thinner cut steak, you would have it really charred on the outside and still kind of raw in the center, and you wouldn't have a nice even doneness throughout. So it's time to check the doneness of this steak. It's been cooking at about 300 to 325 for a little over an hour. Now that cooking time will vary depending on the thickness of your steak. So we'll get a burp. Now we'll open. All right. All right, so it's at about 112 degrees. So that's about where I want it, because again, when I put this on to sear, it's going to continue to cook. I'll get this guy off the grates and reserve him for later. Then I got to get these grates off, and here I've got this handy tool for just such a purpose. Remember not to put that anywhere that it's going to burn anything, because that's still extremely hot. So I'm going to double up a couple towels because this thing's pretty hot. Get these grates back on. Now I'm going to open this vent all the way. And I'm going to leave this open for a minute just to let this fire get raging hot. So I've already seen the flames start to come up. It's starting to get real hot. I'm just going to close the lid with this fully open. That way I can really preheat this grill, because I'm only going to go on for a flash sear with this tomahawk. So real quick before I get this back on the grill, I'm going to wrap the bone in aluminum foil. The thing about this is you're going on an extremely hot surface and you don't want that bone to just char and become black. So a little bit of foil will help prevent that. All right, now this grill surface is already at 600 degrees. So we got a screaming hot temperature for this to get a good sear. I'm just gonna take that and put it right over these flames. So over this high of heat, it really only needs to sear for a minute or two. All right, so it's seared on the second side. I'm gonna pull it off to check the internal temperature to make sure it's right where I want it to be. Can you hear that crackling? All right, so I'm gonna check this in the thickest part of the steak. So we're right at 120 degrees. Though it was cooking low and slow, now it hit a high direct heat, so we're just gonna let it rest for a little while. So I've let this rest for about 5 minutes. I checked the temp and it was just hitting 130, which is at the low end of medium rare, but just how I like it. If you like your steak cooked to a different degree, check out our doneness chart, and that'll help you find your perfect target temperature. I'm gonna start with unwrapping this bone. The foil did its job, and it doesn't look too pretty at this point, so let's get that off of there. Let's cut into this beautiful steak. So reverse searing on the big green egg is really a perfect way to treat this special steak in a special way. And I gotta say, nothing is more impressive than a tomahawk ribeye to show off to all your friends and family. Check out our other video where we cook a prime rib on the big green egg. Thanks for joining us outside today while we cook this amazing looking steak.